Hi everyone, it's Eliana and I have quite a few cards to share with you today. The easy part about these cards was that I had purchased about 3 sheets of a pattern paper that had galaxies on them, and I just cut the paper down to create my background. So it was really easy to find different kinds of stamps that I could use that galaxy with. So right now I am just showing you that I have a bunch of stamps from Space Cadet from Tailored Expressions. I have them mounted in my MISTI, and I am just trying to put everything into one little corner so that I could stamp on both sides of my paper. I've cut a piece of cardstock in half, and that way I can stamp one side and rotate it and stamp on the other side and just color. I do like to leave my stamps inside of my MISTI until I'm completely done coloring, because then I could go back and use some VersaFine and ink it up again and just make that line a little bit bolder. So these are the colors that I used to color my Tailored Expression Space Cadet images. So I'm just going to color a little bit before I just cut the video off. It's just simple Copic coloring. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm pretty much using just one shade of everything except for the animal's fur, but everything is pretty much simple. The details of their uniforms are kind of small, so you don't really have room to do any kind of shading. But most of the bigger items, I maybe use 2 colors. And I basically didn't really want to think too much about what colors to use, so I actually followed the example that Tailored Expressions puts on the front panel of their stamps. And so it made it really easy just to pick out colors that were very similar to that. So that's what I did for all of these. And then once my critters were all done and I picked a different stamp set, I had the markers all on my desk, and so I just continued to use the same colors. And that way all of my cards kind of have the same colors in them. I did have to change the nib on one of my markers, and so you just saw that the color was still floating down, and it did take a good 20 minutes for that nib to get full of color, so I keep checking it. Now that all my coloring is done, I'm going to pop this back into my MISTI, and I'm going to use this new VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. It's very similar to the Black Onyx, but the pad is much easier to use. And so what I'm doing is I'm just going and re-inking it, and you can tell the difference between the top and the bottom, how it just makes it pop. And I think that's my favorite thing to do with the MISTI, and so I always leave my stamps in place, and you could do the same thing. And if you have more than one thing you're trying to stamp, just take advantage of the opposite corner, and you can have a couple of things ready to go in your MISTI. So this is the coloring that I did on my lawn fawn images. I basically used the exact same colors. Now, I had this project and I set it aside. I did get some of these really cool project keepers from Brutus Monroe. This one has will hold 12 by 12 paper, but they do have one for 8.5 by 11, and it does have this little plastic zipper on it, and so you can keep 12 by 12 paper in there. So I found this paper at a scrapbooking store near Peoria, and I picked up a few sheets, and I thought, if I cut this up, I can make some galaxy cards. And what I did was I trimmed them down to 4 by 6. You can disregard that last piece, that was some acetate with some gold stars. I didn't end up using them. And so these are the cards I ended up making, and I did stamp out a border with the mama elephant to create kind of like the moon at the bottom so that I can put my sentiment there. I did make lots of the same birthday cards. So these are for kids I know, and so I have plenty of them to give away. And I did mix and match them, so each one has different stamps from each company. So the Mama Elephant has some Lawn Fawn planets on it, and this other one was inspired by my friend Chris. This was a card that she made for my daughter, and so I colored mine pretty similar to hers. She did an awesome job coloring that first one that I showed you, and it inspired me to do this card. And so I didn't put glitter on it like she did. And Chris, if you haven't checked out Chris Dayton's YouTube channel, you should, because she can do some pretty awesome coloring. And those are the cards. I ended up with 18 cards. And I did go back, and on some of the stars, I ended up putting some Lucy Abram jewels on them. And so it really did add a little bit of bling to it. I also added some glossy accents to the helmets, and I used my Winkastella. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have some pattern paper, be sure you pull it out, because you never know what you can find for your backgrounds. Thanks so much for stopping by. Be sure you give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.